So, it's been said, definitely by people on Twitter, but maybe by psychologists as well, that you will never be braver than you are when you were young. So I'm going to tell a story that is something that takes across my early 20s. So when I was a senior in college, I sat down for one of the most important meals of my life. And that was a meal with people who were soon to be the co-founders of Collective Climb. And we sat down, not because it was an amazing meal. We were actually in our campus dining hall, but it was the best dining hall we had access to, so it felt really special and intentional. And they wanted to ask if I wanted to be on their team to apply for something called the President's Engagement Prize. And the President's Engagement Prize was a seed fund to be able to start a social venture for graduating seniors. And I was really nervous, right? I didn't feel like I deserved to be picked in that moment. But as we talked and we shared ideas, we left with a merger of supporting Black and immigrant youth and creating financial empowerment tools and uplifting what these communities had used to survive for generations. And we decided we were going to do it. Now, some of you don't know me. Others do, and you know Collective Climb, and you know that we don't do anything that sounds like what I just described. But that's part of what the story is about today. So I'll just kind of make this first part pretty brief. We did receive the President's Engagement Prize for that original idea. And I remember getting the call in April of 2020. So I don't know how many people remember April of 2020, but I was in my house twiddling my thumbs, wondering if I was gonna be able to have a graduation, wondering if they were gonna let me back into my dorm so I could finally get the shit out of my closet to move out fully. And now I was wondering, how the hell were we gonna pull this off? And the good thing about being on lockdown was we had ample time to study. So me and my co-founders would get together for 8 hours every single day on Zoom, and we would read together, and we would talk about what we were reading. And one of those texts was Alice Walker's In Search of Our Mother's Gardens. And it introduced us to this concept of womanism, or Black feminism. And the text really has these words: outrageous, audacious, courageous, and willful behavior. So we made a vow that whatever we would build would absolutely embody those values and those principles, both in practice as well as in intention. So when it came to deciding who would be the executive director of Collective Climb, we had Hung Tae, we had Kwaku, and we had Mckayla. So they looked at me like this, and I looked at them like this, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do that. Give me a week to make a decision. And I'll be honest, I did not get back to them in a week. I was trying to stall, and eventually I was just doing the job of the executive director, and it eventually popped into my email signature, and I guess it was written to be that way. But the thing there is, we were very intentional in the beginning of creating structures that valued equal distributions of labor and valued shared decision-making power. So the second order of business we needed to figure out was our mission actually aligned with what we wanted to do? So if you remember 2020, it was not just a time of the global pandemic, but it was also a time where Black death was constantly on our screens, on our phones, and taking place here in our city. And one day we came to this Zoom and we all had a knot in our chest, and we asked ourselves, does financial literacy actually employ all that this radical moment could actually have? Is that enough? Do we need to build that? And we debated until we stopped talking about financial literacy, and we started talking about hope. And we started talking about life. And we started talking about how we could actually create communities that are rooted in care and rooted in love for each other. And so we had to go back to the people who gave us the money, right? And tell them, hey, so we don't think we're actually gonna do what you gave us the money for, and we hope that you won't take the money from us. And they were not pleased. But they didn't take the money from us. And we started to move forward as a restorative justice organization, focused on keeping people out of the system and keeping them in our communities, while keeping our communities whole and safe. And we first tried to do that work with our university that we graduated from. And that went well until we signed a petition that did include the words "fuck Penn Police." And then our pivot had to have a pivot, right? And we felt stuck. We were like, are we actually going to be able to make this thing happen? But instead of staying stuck in that moment, we decided, okay, let's go talk to our neighbors. And we did door to door for a whole month of a year. We joined every coalition possible. We also started a program where we paid young people to learn about restorative justice and to engage in that deep study that we were doing at the same time. And kind of in a weird turn of fate, while the Penn police partnership fell apart, the district attorney's office hit us up and they asked us to take on a case that actually took place on Penn's campus. And I learned after the fact they wouldn't have done that if they didn't realize we weren't working with Penn Police anymore, but that doesn't matter, right? They gave us the case, it turned out well, and we completed, and that young person thrives, right, to this day. And I guess to kind of land the plane, what I am trying to say is 2025 looks a little different than 2020, right? That same hope and that same belief that we can dismantle systems is kind of turned into, can we even survive with these same values that we've had? But I'm proud to say, as the executive director, even if I was reluctant to be so, I am proud that we are a Black feminist organization. I am proud that we are committed to Black joy, security, and freedom. And I am proud that we're focused on restorative justice. And as long as I'm wearing these pants in this role, we are going to be focused on that. And we're going to continue to do that. And we've met so many incredible young people along the way. And what I tell them, and I didn't know this was going to be the theme. I promise I do say something like this. I'm not making it up to just land the plane. I tell them, you will never be braver than you are today. So harness this energy, harness this creativity, and don't be afraid, because one day you'll have risks, one day you'll have responsibilities, and one day somebody will tell you, well, that's not gonna work. Break the mold before anybody tries to put the box around you. So thank you.